It's time for some real April Fool's Day facts. The origin of the holiday, like the origin of most holidays, goes back to the Christianization of pagan traditions. It was a long-standing pagan tradition in Europe to celebrate the new year at the beginning of spring. The idea being the cold goes away, new life starts springing up, so on and so forth, very symbolic for the start of something new. As Christianity spread through Europe, eventually they adopted the Julian calendar. And to make Christianity easier to adapt to, they would make important celebrations fall on their important holidays. So when was New Year's going to be? Well, one camp said that it should be on Easter, because Easter was in spring and it was around the time that people already celebrated the New Year. The problem with that? Easter was a variable holiday. It was based on the lunar calendar and it ended up on a different day each year, which would mean New Year's Day was a different day each year, and that wasn't a great thing. And so people began to reason that Easter did not represent new beginnings, but rather transitions. A transition from the old way to new, the death and resurrection of Christ, and thus the transition from winter to spring. And so the idea kind of stuck. The end of March and the beginning of April was a time for transitions, not new beginnings, even though those are kind of the same thing. Fun fact, International Transgender Day of Visibility is March 31st. The symbolism is hard to shake. Anyway, so then they needed a new day for the start of the new year. And so the church at the time was like, we know the perfect day, the birth of Jesus. What better time to symbolize the start of a new year? And then everyone was like, well, yeah, assholes, but we already celebrate that on December 25th. It's called Christmas. And so they took the next closest month to Christmas and took the first day of that month and said that was going to be New Year's Day. Because it also had Christian significance. Why? They rationalized that that was the day that Jesus was circumcised. No, I'm not kidding. And thus they said the date of Jesus' circumcision would represent the coming in of the new year forevermore. The thing is, there are a lot of people who thought that was stupid. And in France, there is a large community that refused to change the way that they celebrated. So they would continue to celebrate New Year's on the coming of spring. And so, if you were one of the people who celebrated the new year with the coming of spring, everyone else called you an idiot. You were the fool for not getting with the updated, Christianized Julian calendar. And thus, the beginning of April became a day for fools. And in the early 1500s, people would play mean pranks on people who still celebrated the new year at the beginning of spring, around April 1st. But then, as more and more people adopted the Christianized Julian calendar, people just liked playing pranks on people. So it stopped being prank those people and started being prank anyone. And that's how we got April Fool's Day. Unless I'm lying about all of this because it's April Fool's Day. But I wouldn't do that to you. Would I? Nah.